महोदय, राष्ट्रीय संग्रहालय के अधिकारीगण, मेरे सहकर्मियों, देवियों और सज्जनों, आज की इस शाम में मैं नाजिया आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करती हूँ। मैं आज के स्पीकर डॉक्टर आनंद सर का भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत करती हूँ। नेशनल म्यूजियम में हर माह एक पब्लिक लेक्चर का आयोजन किया जाता है, जिसमें अलग अलग टॉपिक पर व्याख्यान होते हैं, जैसे आर्कियोलॉजी, एक्सकेवेशन, पेंटिंग, आर्ट हिस्ट्री, एजुकेशन और म्यूजियोलॉजी। लेक्चर सीरीज के माध्यम से हम इन फील्ड में काम कर चुके प्रख्यात वक्ता को बुलाते हैं, जिसमें हमारा प्रयास रहता है कि म्यूजियम फील्ड से जुड़ी शोध जानकारियां आप सभी तक पहुंच सकें, और ये हमारी म्यूजियम लर्निंग का एक अहम हिस्सा भी है। आज हम सब यहाँ एनएम पब्लिक लेक्चर 2023 के लिए इकट्ठा हुए हैं। जैसा कि आप सभी जानते हैं कि आज के लेक्चर का टॉपिक है मेटाफिजिक्स ऑफ हिंदू टेम्पल्स। तो लेक्चर शुरू करने से पहले मैं हमारे आज के स्पीकर को आप सब से रूबरू कराना चाहूँगी। डॉक्टर आनंद वर्धन, विरासत शोध एवं प्रबंधन विभाग, अम्बेडकर विश्वविद्यालय, नई दिल्ली में उप संकाय अध्यक्ष हैं। आपने भारतीय कला विरासत और संग्रहालयों पर गहराई से लिखा है। डॉक्टर वर्धन ने भारत के पवित्र भवनों के सामाजिक, आर्थिक और सांस्कृतिक कार्यों में विशेषज्ञता हासिल की है। आपने अपना शोध प्रबंध बृहदेश्वर मंदिर के विशेष संदर्भ में तंजावुर के पवित्र भवन पर लिखा है। आपका शोध प्रबंध शुद्धिकरण अनुष्ठानों का एक वैज्ञानिक अध्ययन है, जो मंदिर एवं पवित्र कलाकृतियों के संरक्षण में महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाते हैं। आपने हिंदू वास्तुकला, प्रतिमा विज्ञान और वैदिक तत्व मीमांसा के क्षेत्र में विशेषज्ञता हासिल की है। आपने कुंभ अभिषेकम और थिरुमंजनम जैसे पवित्र संरक्षण पर अध्ययन किया है, जिसने भारत में विरासत अनुसंधान के नए द्वार खोले हैं। आप भारतीय संग्रहालय संघ के अध्यक्ष और शोध एवं प्रबंधन दिल्ली संस्थान के वरिष्ठ संकाय अध्यक्ष भी हैं। आज अपने व्याख्यान के माध्यम से आप हिंदू टेम्पल से संबंधित आध्यात्मिक पहलुओं के बारे में विस्तार से चर्चा करेंगे और धार्मिक कॉस्मोग्राफ मंडला के बारे में भी चर्चा करेंगे। तो आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं हमारे महानिदेशक महोदय डॉक्टर बी.आर. मणि सर से अनुरोध करूंगी कि वह मंच पर आएं और आज के अवसर पर 2 शब्द कहें। प्लीज तालियों से स्वागत करें बी.आर. मणि सर का।
इस सभागार में उपस्थित सभी भाइयों और बहनों और विशेष रूप से डॉक्टर आनंद वर्धन का मैं स्वागत करता हूं। पिछले कुछ वर्षों से जो हमारा पब्लिक लेक्चर का प्रोग्राम होता था, उसमें कुछ बाधा आई। इसमें कोविड का भी प्रकोप था, उसके कारण भी पब्लिक लेक्चर्स नहीं हो पाए। लेकिन इस वर्ष जब मैं पुनः राष्ट्रीय संग्रहालय में आया तो मैंने इसको फिर से शुरू करने का बीड़ा उठाया, और उसका फल ये है कि आज इस वर्ष का पहला पब्लिक लेक्चर हो रहा है। डॉक्टर आनंद वर्धन को विशेष रूप से हम लोगों ने पहले लेक्चर के लिए आमंत्रित किया। जो म्यूजियम एसोसिएशन ऑफ इंडिया है, उसके अध्यक्ष हैं आप, और इतना ही नहीं, भारतीय पुरातत्व, कला और इतिहास के एक प्रमुख मंच हैं। आप सबके सामने ये हमारे लिए बहुत प्रसन्नता का विषय है कि डॉक्टर आनंद बर्धन मेटाफिजिक्स ऑफ हिंदू टेम्पल्स के ऊपर अपना भाषण दे रहे हैं। और हिंदू टेम्पल्स या टेम्पल्स एज सच, इनकी उत्पत्ति कैसे हुई, मंडल क्या है, मंडल में किस तरह से हम पूरे विश्व की कल्पना करते हैं, और उसके मध्य सेंटर में हम किसी डीटी की कल्पना करते हैं। शिव का जो लिंगोद्भव स्वरूप है, जो एक महाकाय अग्नि प्रज्वलित हुई जब लिंगोद्भव रूप में शिव प्रकट हुए, और वो संपूर्ण विश्व में व्याप्त हुई, उस सब का निचोड़ और हमारे संस्कृति में मंदिरों का प्रासाद, जिसका दूसरा भी नाम लोगों ने, हमारे जो शिल्प शास्त्री हैं उन्होंने दिया है, उसका पूरी उसकी रूपरेखा बताते हुए अपने उद्बोधन में डॉक्टर आनंद बर्धन को सुनने के लिए हम सब बेताब हैं। और ये एक उत्कृष्ट वक्ता है, इसके विषय में आप में से अधिकांश को पता भी होगा। और आपके और डॉक्टर आनंद बर्धन के बीच में ना आकर मैं सीधे उन्हें निमंत्रित करता हूँ कि आज का अपना उद्बोधन प्रारंभ करें। धन्यवाद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। आपके शब्द हमेशा से ही हम लोग के लिए प्रेरणादायी रहे हैं। अब मैं आनंद सर से निवेदन करूंगी कि वो मंच पे आएं, और डॉक्टर बी.आर. मणि सर से निवेदन करूंगी कि वो फूलों के गुलदस्तों से सर का स्वागत करें। जोरदार तालियों से स्वागत करें आनंद सर का। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। सर आपसे निवेदन है कि आप अपना स्थान ग्रहण कर लें, और अब और ज़्यादा समय ना लेते हुए मैं हमारे आज के वक्ता डॉक्टर आनंद बर्धन सर से निवेदन करूंगी कि वो अपना व्याख्यान प्रस्तुत करें।
महोवर्णः सरस्वती प्रचेतयति केतुना धियो विश्वा विराजति। ओम यज्ञं दधे सरस्वती। I make invocation to the goddess of knowledge, Vagishwari Saraswati, and I express me it is a great impetus to me that a very good number of scholars have joined this lecture. Friends, when we think about a temple, there emerges a form on the sphere of our conscience. And we, in general, think that temple is a place for all sacramental performances. There is no doubt about it that temples were made for sacerdotal practices, rituals, sacraments. When historically somebody thinks about temple, he or she may feel that there is a long periodical gap between the period when Vedas appeared through the rishis, Rishyo Mantra Drashtaraha, and the temples which were made in later course of history. I would like to explain first the hymnological context of Vedas is imbued in metaphysical sense in all the limbs, all the members, all the architectonic designs, all the architectural features, and in the entire sculptural schemata of a Hindu temple. You may say that Vedas describe, elucidate in a very frolicsome manner all about the cosmogonic forces and the supreme power of the universe. There are mantra murtis, but probably there was no concept of giving an anthropomorphic form to the gods in that particular period. So there is a vital contrast between what is hymnologically in our most ancient literature, the absolute ethics of our country and our culture, and what we evolved in the long course of our history as gigantic, magnificent structures, eye-soaring structures. But Shastra has brought to the fore a wonderful concept. Sakaro vikriti geya tat sarva jagat isthitam puja dhyanadikam nityam sakarastaiva sakyate. Why the sakar has been created, why a form has been given. And there we find there is emphasis on two particular words which are very important in context to our temples. First is puja, and then second word is dhyanam. We know what is puja and what is dhyanam. So when we recite Purnamidam Purnamadaha Purnat Purnam Uchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate, it is invocation to enter into the cosmos of wideness that itself is Purna. And we say, Abhedam Darshanam Jnanam, Dhyanam Nirvishayam Manah. When we do the dhyana, there can be no mundane desire in heart, in mind, in brain, wherever you perceive. Anything which is only important in physical context, which is just a mundane reality, you have to abstain from the mundane reality. Then only you can do the dhyanam. So whether there is an icon, I would like to make you very clear that temple itself is an image, it is itself an icon, it is itself is a body, it is in itself a pratima, it is also a pratima. Though it is a mandiram, mandaram eva mandiram, it appears to a great mountainous body. So The temple is made basically for puja and dhyan. There is another important issue related to temple, that where we should create a temple. There is a very significant discourse, and again we will have to take recourse to Shastras, where it is very explicitly elucidated. Vano panant nadi shaila nirjharo pant bhumisu ramante devata nityam pure udyanavat suja. Where there you find a natural kaleidoscope, a panoramic beauty, a scenic beauty which is rare, where you have one upavan shail nirjhara. The denizens of heaven are present there. If a place is not having a unique sacred physiographic structure, you cannot create there a temple. But in context to making of temple, you will find that, slide please. Okay. Temples were made specifically in northern India with curvilinear spire. And this is the enigma, the most enigmatic principle. It is just not a sacramental principle, it is an enigmatic principle. Why this temple has a curvilinear spire? We can see the figure of Khajuraho. The Vedas describe Trinabhichakram ajaram amaram aranavam yatrema visvabhuvanani tasto. World is not circular. World is elliptical. World is not exactly circular, it is elliptical. This is what Vedas are saying. It may be a subject of great discourse for Europe in late 16th, 17th century. But Shastra has established it. If there will be a Trinabhi Chakra temple and the spire will have features like Dirghanda Vrit, as Sant Shastra says. Dirgha Anda Vrit. It is Vrit, but it is Dirghanda Vrit. Appears like an ant. So when there will be Trinabhi Chakra, means there will be three centers. There will not be one center. There will not be one nucleus. There will be three centers, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. And it will appear like a curvilinear superstructure. Curvilinear superstructure. We will talk about curvilinearity, but what is important? A temple is made on a ritual cosmograph called mandala. And my Surya. Uduttam jata vedasam devam vahantike tavaha drishe viswaya surya. No puja is complete without Avahan to Surya. And there are people who have come from the Gaya region. They know it very well because of Chhath Puja. So, there is made a large ritual cosmograph called mandala. This mandala has a rhythm. This mandala has a music. This mandala has a subtle cosmogonic force. And it is the adhar of the Rit cosmic order. Ritam cha satyam cha abhidhata tapaso adhiya jayata. Tato ratri ajayata tato samudro varnavaha samudrat arnavat adhi samvatsaro ajayata aho ratrani vidatha vishvasya visato vasi. A temple has to exist on cosmic principle, absolute principle. How can you make a structure which has no cosmic principle, which has no philosophy? So, temple is made on a ritual cosmograph and this ritual cosmograph is called Mandapa. Why Mandapa is important? Regarding temple, Silp Shastra again says, Hiranyamaye Daivat Srishti Mande. It is a manda, it is a yupa, it is a pillar, and it links this terrestrial world with Dyuloka, the spiritual world. So temple is a structure that exists on cosmic principle called mandapa. But why mandapa is significant? Ma is Surya, Anda is the elliptical world, and La is Laya. Temples are also known for mandapas. Temple as a mandap, as a mandar, as a kailas is important in two different contexts. Number one, why it is significant and why we should consider it very significant. It has to be considered significant because it represents the supernal man called the Virata Purush. And Purush means Puram Sayatisha Purukha. That is not visible. He is not visible. The supernal man is not visible. Achintya Roop Charite Devi Devi Vai Viswarupani. Devi is not visible. But the whole world is birth of that Devi. It is manifestation of Shiva. It is manifestation of Vishnu. It is manifestation of Shakti. So, Mandala is all about the cosmic principle. And here is slumbering. There is a power which is imbued, that is imbued in it. It is Virata Purush, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapata, Sahasrasirsha. He has countless numbers of heads, countless number of eyes. This supernal man is the eternal power. This mandala is all pervading. There are 8 directions in the world. There are 33 different categories of gods. There are different forms of Agni. We have Prana Agni. We have Parthiva Agni. We have Vaishwanar Agni. There are different forms of Agnis which have been described in our literature. So, the mandala is based on the concept that the cosmos has one central force, supreme source of energy, that is the absolute being, immutable being, and that is at the nucleus as Brahma. All directions are determined by him. This has been so significant, actually, that mandala is not just designed on the earth surface before making a temple as a ritual. We have many significant architectonic designs within the temple where mandala is represented. And this is very, very remarkable in context to the Purush and the whole Srishti. Hiranyo ayam purukha prasasta tat prerit chestasta eva deha. The temple is a body of the Purusha. And in that context, we will see that temple has limbs like human body. It has Jangha, Kati, Janhu, Hridaya, Netra, Karna, Nasika, Mastak, and even Sikha. In the interior of the temple, we generally find there is Vitana, what you can call as ceiling. And this is something which is highly mysterious. But we will have to understand it in metaphysical context. These are also a kind of mandala. These are also mandalas, and you can find that there is a Padma Bandha kind of design as defined in Vastu Shastra. We find a very significant quotation, a sloka in one of the Upanishad, Tejo Bindu Upanishad. Dve brahmani veditavve shabda brahma param chayat Sabda brahmani nisnatah param brahma adhigacchati. Shabda is a form, it has dhvani. That is one form of Brahma, but there is another Brahma, it has a form, and that form is the Vastu Brahma. So it is denotative to the Vastu Brahma. A temple must be understood in terms of Vastu Brahma or the Vastu Purush or the Virat Purush. So why this Padma, which is generally described, this is a very specific category of Chakrambuj Mandala, where you find the word Amba, Ambuj, it is related to fertility power. And lotus is one symbol that signifies the fertility power. Its placenta is placenta of mother. In the entire realm of Indian civilization, you know that lotus is one of the most prominent symbols. In Tantra, it is a very important symbol. In Vastu, it is a very important symbol. In art, it is a very important. And specifically, Sahasra Dal Kamal, it is denotative to the Sahasra Adhara Chakra. In the ritual cosmograph of Mandala, the body of Virat Purush is depicted with different Kundalini, Sakti Chakras. This is also important in context of Dhvani. And before understanding the concept of Dhvani, I would like to explain it first. That how you have to perceive the temple. You can see there is one Ram Purva bull of Maurya period. Singol has been in news. You know the reason. And there is Nandishwar from Brihadeshwar temple. We say Jivah Sivah Shivah Jivah Sajivah Kevalah Shivah. The Jiva, this Atma is Shiva only. And Shiva is also the Jiva, the Atma. And Sajiva, this Jiva is this Vrishabha. Shiva temple is known for it. Mangalam Bhagavan Shambhu, Mangalam Vrishabhadhvaja, Mangalam Parvati Natho, Mangalayatano Hari. Hara, not Hari. On Gupta coins you may find Garudhvaj or the Garudhvan. This Vrisha related to Shiva is significant in one context, that all animals represented in temple art, all flowers represented in temple art, all religious symbols reflected by the temple art, they are important in philosophic context. Every pratima is important in context of spiritual self-realization. Pratiti, Vastu Sutra Upanishad describes pratikat pratima jayante. Every pratima is a pratik, is a symbol. And everything is important in symbolic context. The temple is a miniature cosmos, and so it represents all the 5 subliminal elements. Again, I will link it with the Vedas. The temple is made on an adhisthana that is called Vedika. Why it is called Vedika? The Vedic connotation, the Vedic hymnological concept, they are all imbued either in ritual and also in structure. They are imbued in rituals, they are imbued in the structure. We know how Vedas have been described. Rig Vedo Jatam Sarvaso Murtimahu Sarva Gati Yajasu Haiva Satsvat. All movement, energy, cosmic force, they have been described in Yajurveda. In Yajurveda. Every structure is important in context of Rigveda. Every physical form is important in Sarvam Hidam Brahmana Haiva system. Everything which reflects knowledge, which is embodiment of knowledge, is important in context of the Vedic knowledge tradition that we have. So temples have all the 5 elements as Nasdi Sukta described. Etasma Akashah Shambhuta. Firstly, Akash has originated. Akashat Vayu. Vayoragni. Agnerapah. Adabhyah Prithvi. Prithibhya Aushadha. There is a scientific correlation in origin of all these 5 elements, and I would like to describe that temple actually represents all the 5 elements. When we enter in a temple, we are actually supposed to be elated by the mantras. It creates dhani. And mantra is important in context of Akash. If there is no mantra, there is no temple. It cannot be termed as a living temple. Without rituals and mantra, temple cannot be living because mantra represents the Akash as an element, subliminal element. Even the Nyaya and Vaisheshik Sutras describe Shabd Gunakam Akasham. So there is mantra dhvani, there is sankha dhvani, there is ghanta dhvani. All dhvanis are important in terms of Akash. And we know that in temple, without prana pratishtha, nothing can happen, and prana is very important. And it is again based on the Vedic concept Om Pranam Ahu Mati Rishvanam Vato Hi Prana Uchyate. Prana Ha Bhutam Bhavyam Cha Sarvam Prane Sarvam Pratishthita. Vayu is the second element. And Vayu itself is the prana. So prana sannidhana, prana pratishtha is very important in ritual context, in context of the Vedic knowledge which played very important role in evolution of Vastu Shastra. As it is said that Deh itself is Devalaya. Deho Devalaya Prukta. Sa Jivah Kevalah Shivah Tadzet Gyan Nirmalyam So Aham Bhavena Pujayet. The temple is a body, and we have also a body. This body is also a temple. And the element that is present there, subliminal element, that is Shiva. But the whole temple is important in as a bodical device. It is a body. And Vayu plays an important role there as the prana tattva. There is third element. We are seeing a very important picture. And this is one of the most enigmatic signs of India. This is personally what I feel. This is Elephanta. The plan is very unusual. Here is an icon often called Trimurti. That is not Trimurti. It represents all the 5 elements. Mahesham, Suresham, Surarartinasham, Vibhu Vishwanatham, Vibhushitayangam, Virupakshmindvark Agni Trinitram, Sadanandamide, Prabhu Panchavaktram. Lord have 5 faces. Sadyojatah Vamdeva, Aghorah cha Mahabhujah, Tat Tat Purusham Geyam, Isanam Panchamam Mukham. So the 5 faces of Shiva represent 5 elements of the universe. 5 elements of the universe. There you can see, once you will enter in this particular mandap from the front, you may feel that this is the Garbhagriha. Because in perpendicular line, this figure appears. But you can see there is a Garbhagriha that is open from all the 4 sides, and where you have the lingam, that is the avyakt form of Shiva. God is represented, gods and goddesses are represented in 2 different forms. Linga is actually avyakta, unmanifested reality. But on the doors you have gigantic figures, colossal figures of the Dwarpalas. They are the reflections of Shiva himself. They are also Shiva. Garbhagriha tu devasya shariram pratima jiva uchyate. This sanctum is very important. Why it is important? Because it has again been called a body, and the image that has been installed with a very complex system of ritual performance, that is Jiva. So prasad is important in terms of Purush, prasad is important in terms of different elements, and it represents all the different worlds, Bhu, Bhurabhuva, Bhu, Bhuva and Shwa. There are 3 different parts of temple. The temple's lower part is Bhu, that represents the terrestrial world, Bhuva, space, and Swaha, the celestial world. The most important aspect of temple is in fact, the representation of Agni. We know that the puja is performed with Avahan of Agni. And Agni has been considered as an omniscient, omnipresent force. Tam tam idabhire angire Gridena vardhayamashi prihatsochaya vishtaya sa swaha. Om angirase jatvedashe namah swaha idam namam. The Agni is there in Prithvi. Prithvi also reflects Agni. And this Agni goes upward. This is Angirash Agni. Temple as a structure, it represents the outflow and the reflection of Agni from this Parthiv Jagat to the celestial world. There is Agni that is coming from the Surya Loka itself. And that has played important role in the formation of the world, in this history. So that Agni is also, it is equally significant. And it is said, Uduttam jata vedasha devam bhahanti ketava hadrishe viswaya surya. It is Surya that plays most remarkable role in creation of the universe. And we see there are independently designed, created images of Agni also on the walls of temples. The Vedika is fire altar, and the circle of the temple is called Vedika, that represents Agni. Deep represents Agni. And the representation of Agni, God on the wall of temple also represents Agni. But wow, what the world is said, Agni Jagar Tam Richam. These richas, hymns are important also in context of Agni. And the world is basically made of two most powerful elements, that is Agni and Som, and Vedas say Agni Somatmakam Jagat. Agni Somatmakam Jagat. Agnir Jagar Tau Soma. Som is imbued in Agni and Agni is imbued in Som. As it is said in context of Shiva and Vishnu, Shivaye Vishnu Rupaye Shiva Rupaye Vishnave Shivasya Hriday Isthitah Vishnu Vishnur Hriday Isthitah Shiva. As Shiva is within the heart of Vishnu and Vishnu is within the heart of Shiva. Similarly, Som is within the realm of Agni and Agni exists within the realm of Soma. Here it means Jal also. Jal means where Janm is Leena, or the laya of birth, power of progeny is imbued in water, and you know no purificatory ritual can take place without water. How symbolically it is presented. The rhythm of life is music. So, you can find Vidyadhara, Gandharva and Apsaras. We have figure of Apsaras, flying Gandharvas here also in National Museum. So who are the Gandharvas? It's a very significant image. They are very significant image which are ubiquitous to entire India, and they are found on the walls of Hindu temples everywhere. It is said, Yoshit Kama Vai Gandharva. Kama, power of progeny, the desire to procreate. It is the intrinsic power and beauty of these Gandharva figures, and they are shown with Apsaras. Apsu Sheelam Saratvat Apsara. Apsara represent the female power of progeny, and Gandharvas represent male power of progeny, and it is said Gandharva Apsaro Vai Manushya Prajaya. All Praja, all Manushya, basically they are Santan of Gandharva and Apsara. Basically, Gandharva is a Bhava, Apsara is also a Bhava. Rashtra Kavi Ramdhari Singh Dinkar in Urvasi has written it, composed in beautiful couplet. Apsarana Puna Pururva Punar Ravana. This is the bhava of a male. He desires for love. And Apsara is one who actually appeals, attracts this Pururva, this Purush, this Antarbandha is the beauty of the Maithuni Srishti, which has been presented in a very exquisite and prolixum manner in the magnificent temples of Khajuraho. We can see that the cosmological thoughts of our country, they are sometimes reflected in a very vigorous manner in some of the temples. And the figure that you are viewing, it is the figure of Konark. We had many temples dedicated to Surya, Martanda temple, temple of Mandsaur, Konark, and in Bihar there are very important places. And I will show you one particular place. I had been associated with that particular place, Devar, but now we are viewing this picture, which is Konark. And this Konark represents actually the entire gamut of our astrological knowledge. What had been written in very prolific and scientific manner by Aryabhat, Bhaskaracharya, Brahmagupta, and by all the great scientists of the ancient era, that astrological knowledge, the knowledge of astrophysics, actually was given such a monumental form, with grace, with beauty, with splendor, and by a system of exquisite, delicate carving, where every possible minutest detail has been given. Chalati Kramena Chakra. This is movement of universe, movement of sun. Chitram Devanam Ud Agat Anikam. Chakshur Mitrasya Varuna Sagne Apra Dhava Prithvi Antarikcham Surya Atma Jagatastatusya. If one has to find the most subtle element of this temple, it is imbued in this sutra. It represents all the lustful aspects of love, all the mundane realities, all the terrestrial realities, all the worldly realities. But beyond that, there is a spiritual reality. And probably nowhere in the world there would have been created such a marvelous structure where the best of your dance form is depicted, where you have Natya Karanas based on the principles of Bharat Muni, but at the same time you have depiction of chakra with spokes and many other elements which are based on the system of Kal Ganana and Panchang system that India evolved. One figure you can see. This is Gajakrantak Sim. And what is Gaj? We will see other figures as well. Ga means Gagan. Gagan means space where clouds are formed. Ja means Janmalena, where this Gaj has taken its birth. No Gajs are found in the terrestrial world, but the moving clouds are also Gaj. And what is this Simha? This Sindh is Chapal Simha, the Tadita Simha, the Chapal Simha. The electricity produced due to movement of Vayu. You know, Vayu Agni, from Vayu Agni has originated. What a great scientific principle. And that was evolved in time immemorial. You cannot fix up a time, a date. Yugad Yogottara Drishti. You will have to develop to understand this principle, which are just not theoretical, rather axiomatic principles of our life. So this lion, roaring lion, is attacking on this Gajakrantak Singh. For what? Gajmukta. It may be an interpretation in general. But it is because of this phenomena that water falls on this earth. It is representative of a physical climatic phenomena, that how water falls on this earth and how pouring down of the water, this vrishti, is important for our life. You have seen the figure of Vrishabha. Vrishabha and vrishti have originated from same dhatu in Sanskrit. And this is the temple. My Nanaji was a Purohit and priest of this temple, Dev's Sun Temple, and I'm still very deeply associated with this temple because my upbringing took place at Devar. It is Dev, now in Aurangabad district. Earlier it was in Gaya district. So when the people enter, or specifically the ritualists enter in the temple, they see the Sikhara. In South Indian context, it is Viman that is important. And the puja starts with the darshan of the Sikhara. There is colors on the top. There are colors on the different columns. On the top of the column, there is a colors. At the base of a column, colossal column, there is a colors. You can see here is a Ghat Pallava. Sannor Devi Abhishtaya Apo Bhavantu Pite Sangyora Abhisravantuna. This Apa is present in different forms. So you have different type of kalash. Kalash kal, kala, yatra shayati. This kalash is not simple. This kalash is just not symbolic. And if it is a symbol, it is a predominant symbol with a philosophic expression par excellence in spiritual context. कलशस्य मुखे विष्णु कंठे रुद्रः समाहिता मूले च स्थितः ब्रह्मा मध्ये मातृगणा स्थिता कुक्षौ तु सागराः सर्वे सप्तदीपाव सुंदरा. All the 7 continents, all the 7 great payonidhi sagarah toyonidhi are within this kalash. And not only these. Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Atharvaveda, Samaveda, all the Vedas, all knowledge of Vedas is here. Whether it is a large sun temple, Devark, Varunark, Agnayark, Lolark, Umark. I visited around 250 villages in Magadha where you find great number of sun images are still available. And in Nevada district, we have a place, Upsad, very important archaeological village. There we have Bhudevi Uddhar Pratima, Nrivarah Pratima. And I had been to that place with my father when I was in class 3rd or 4th, and my papa made that logo for that local college, Bhudevi Uddhar Pratima. So this kalash is significant in terms of power of progeny. Temple represents the most profound, the profoundest ideas related to power of progeny, which was made a subject of worship and research by the rishis. Ritrashta Rishi. And this represents, of course, Jal, one of the most significant aspects of the Hindu cult. This is Brihadeshwara temple. Aham nirvikalpo nirakar rupo vibhutvat sarvatra. Nirvikalpa and nirakar. Shiva is nirvikalp. It has no, he is Nirabhyava and has no form. But lastly, what it say? Chidanand Rupo Sivoham Sivoham Na Bhuto Na Agni Na Cha Panchavayu Chidanand Rupam Sivoham Sivoham. I am not present. I am there in all elements, but I am not these 5 elements. Finally, what is being said, it is very important. Nirvikalpo nirakaro. No substantial element defined by you is important in my context. I am altogether a distinct entity. This is what the mantra defines. And why it is significant to be understood that there is always a difference between spirit and matter. So the upasana of the ling is important in terms not of matter but as a spiritual force, subtle and the most sublime, the most absolute, the most enduring one, the immutable being one. Even if there is a Vishnu image, it has to be taken like that. Hiranyagarbha Prathamah Sariri, everything has originated from Hiranyagarbha, and the Garbha of the temple is always significant because you see the Garbhagriha. Vartul Vrit Rupo Garbh Kosha Ananda. It is Vartul. Again, the concept of creating something elliptical and circular, little different from circular. So it is Vartul Vrita and it is Garbh Kosha, the Vumbha, Garbha, where Gaman is possible. Ara, where there is motion. And Bha, there is Bhaswarta, there is light. There is light, there is motion there in the Garbh. Because a life force is there. But it is applicable to temple of Vishnu also, not only to Shiva. Hiranyagarbha Prathama Sariri So Abhyakt Atma Jalshai Vishnu. Vishnu who is slumbering in the ocean Chir Sagar. That is also, he is sleeping, reclining within the realm of the Hiranyagarbha itself. Hiranyagarbha samavartatagre bhutasya jatah patirekyasit sadadhar prithvim dyamuttamam kashmai devaya habika videma. This Hiranyagarbha Sukt also played a remarkable role in construction when the Vastukar or Sthapakacharya or Sutradhar, even Vardik, whosoever was working, he had taken the structure in entire historic perspective of the culture and ritual practices of this country. We have a great Vastu Shastra text. And you may feel thrilled, elated by reading the text. As you are supposed to feel thrilled and in a state of ecstasy, supreme ecstasy and trance when you are worshipping Shiva or Vishnu within the Garbhagriha or from the vestibule itself. So why it is important? This Garbhagriha is important because power of fertility has its residue within it. It dwells within it. Shiva dwells within the linga. And reclining Vishnu, as I told you, is not different from Shiva. So temple represents both the Vyakt and the Abhyakt form. And what is ultimately important? The temple is a continuum of Shiva. And continuum of Shiva is continuum of the diverse kinetic energy. He is a boundless source of energy, supreme source of energy. This is Gangai Kond Choleshwara temple, and you are seeing the Vimana. As I have told you, Vimanam Chodet Pragyahanana Gati Prabhadata. It actually gives a great impetus to your medulla oblongata, the brain, to think about the universe and cosmos. This Vimana, that is Visishta in Mana, measurement. Its measurement is adequately perfect, exquisitely perfect. Otherwise, Vimana cannot be created. So here Shiva is dancing on Apasmar, that symbolizes ignorance. A temple as a structure imbibes in itself, includes in itself, envisages in itself the entire Upanishadic Vedantic knowledge based on the Prasthanatraya. As I was telling you, we have a teen text, Naganajit, Narada, Brihaspati. They have very elaborately discussed that structure is not important in terms of bricks, in terms of stones, in terms of wood that has been used. They are basically a kind of mental construct. It is a mental construct. It is a construction based on thorough knowledge of Shastra. A person creating figure of Nataraja, he was always aware of the concept of dancing Shiva. His Pradosh Nritya, his Nadant Nritya, his Tandav Nritya, his Ananda Nritya, his Raudra Tandav Nritya. Because Nadant Nritya is remarkable, significant in terms of all kinds of representation of Shiva, but it is very important in a specific concept of Nataraja Shiva called in South India as Adavalam. The great Brideshwar temple is dedicated to Lord of Dance Adavalam or Sadashiv. Pasha Yuktam Pashu Pas Muktah Sadasiva. When you are within the chains of worldly desire, you are a pasu, you are an animal. When you are free from these mundane realities, you are of course Sadasiva. So Sadasiva is one who is bereft of all worldly elements. This is the very bhava, and when large constructions were made, temples emerged as temple towns. We have very significant names of temple towns. Gaya, Gammyaman Yagya, Prayag, Prakrishta Pratham Yagya, Ujjaina, it is Ujjwala Nagari, Ujjwalita Nagari, Tiruvananthapuram, Kanchipuram. All temple places have their significant names. One very important place for the worshippers of Lord Vishnu is Srirangam. And you will see that the temple of Srirangam, where we have reclining Vishnu, Anantashayi Vishnu, you have multiple Gopurams. And Go is not cow. Go is something which is in constant movement. Astrologically, as in books of astrology, Go is denotative to a constant moving pinda. You know, the temple is also a pinda. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Yatha. So this is a pinda, but at the same time it is the whole cosmos, and you have multiple prakaras and gopuram, and the number of gopuram from one direction is 7. Our great theorists and great engineers, now Karmik and Sthapakacharya of that era, were fully aware of this Bhuvan Kosh Vigyan. As it has been described in our Puranas, there had been a science in India. It was not called earth science, rather it was Bhuvan Kosh Vigyan. And in temple, it is not only the Jyotish which is involved, it is not the science of Vastu that was involved. There were construction based on Bhuvan Kosh Vigyan, the metaphysical, perceptual understanding of the geography of the world. And this was the reason then they created a temple on the concept of Saptadvipa Vasumati. So you have 7 prakaras and we have 7 Gopura. This is the last slide, and I think I have taken already a time more than an hour. So I conclude my lecture with all these words. And if you have queries, you can ask to this Alpagya of the Hindu shrines.
QNC सेशन के लिए ये मंच अब खुला है। जिसको भी क्वेश्चन पूछना है अपना हाथ खड़ा कर सकते हैं और आपको माइक दिया जाएगा तो आप क्वेश्चन पूछ लीजिए।
Sir, I want to ask, few temples I visited in Rajasthan, so few Jain temples as well. They have the जो उनका छत है वो काफ़ी नीचे है, they have a short height. They have short height. So what's the science behind that?
छत शॉर्ट हाइटेड है। कौन सा टेम्पल राजस्थान में?
Jain temple, जैसलमेर.
उसका पीरियड क्या है? Rajasthan has a very important Jain temple at Ranakpur that is known for very colossal columns. So, until unless there is no figure of that particular temple, I will not be able to tell. And you will have to tell me actually the period of the temple also. The last major temple in Rajasthan that was made during the period of Rana Kumbha, it is Ranakpur group of temples. And that temple has 1400 columns. All the columns have different designs, different kinds of sculptural decoration, and despite this fact, they are able to bear the load of the entire structure. And that temple is known for very large Bhuvaneshwari or Vital. That is based on Uchikta Vidhan, coffer and cups pattern. So generally Jain temples do not have you can say ceiling that is small or the height is quite less. It's not like that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Sir, recently I visited the Hoysala temples at Somnathpur. So, we know South Indian temples by its gopurams, by its long-heighted vimans, but the Hoysala temples are not decorated with gopurams. They have a different architecture. So, what is the meaning?
That's a very good question. And, the Hoysala group of temples, we have got around 100 temples. You can say more than 100 temples. There is Vaisheshwar temple, Chinakeswar temple, temple of Somnathpur. There were three very important aspects. Number one, they are based on a stellate pattern called Ashtabhadra. So, this is one major difference that you find. Second important thing is that their spire, the superstructure is globular and square. One may link it to the baser style of temple. In some ways, even Professor Setyar was not very clear once he visited my institute and saying whether I should call it exactly a Besra or not. I don't know. But it is of course a distinct style. Vishnuvardhan, the first important king of the dynasty, made a claim that he is a Vaishnavite, a great follower of Lord Vishnu, number one. And then he describes Swa Bhujarjitam, Swa Khadakena Arjitam Bhuvi. मैंने अपने खड़क के जोर से इस भूमि को जीता है. And I have dedicated my life to Lord Vishnu. And there you will find there is actually emphasis on very delicate carving. The beauty of Hoysala's temples lies actually in 2-3 important factors. Number one, exquisite carving. Number two, the stellate pattern, the Ashtabhadra pattern. Number three, which is very important, is the pattern of making just not one garbhagriha, rather making multiple garbhagriha, ek kuta, dvi kuta and tri kuta vidhan. So they opted for even 3 kuta vidhan. There is image of Damodara, Lord Vishnu Srinivasa, and then you have image of Janardana in the same temple. So this Trikut Vidhan was actually something which actually inspired the artist rather than to create something colossal, to give it again a Vartula Akriti or Ashtabhuja Akriti. So the emphasis was there on Ashtabhuj Akriti, and they got very good quality of blacks from that region, and it made carving quite easy. So the approach has changed. Once you have asked a question, I remember one inscription is there that hundreds of years have passed. My forefathers and sisters, they were working for temple. Oh dear grandson, your father is not in this world, but I know you will lovingly take up this responsibility of cutting and carving. And this is how the tradition of Shilpa will continue. Thank you.
मैं दिलीप कुमार हूँ, एक अर्थशास्त्र का विद्यार्थी हूँ। उस दृष्टिकोण से मैं मंदिर को देखना पसंद कर रहा हूँ। डॉक्टर आनंद वर्धन जी ने काफ़ी साइंटिफिकली इम्पोर्टेंस फॉर टेम्पल्स एंड स्ट्रक्चर्स आपने एक्सप्लेन किया। मैं एक चीज़ जानना चाहता हूँ, जगन्नाथ मंदिर पुरी में, जिसके बारे में ये बताया जाता है कि उसका शैडो नहीं बन पाता है, उसका फ्लैग हमेशा एयर के अपोजिट डायरेक्शंस में जाता है, और साथ बहुत सारी बातें हैं। तो डू यू हैव सम साइंटिफिक रीजन ऑफ दिस टेम्पल्स, पर्टिकुलर दैट टेम्पल्स, और दे आर द मेन पर्टिकुलर, काइंडली एक्सप्लेन दिस थिंग्स।
भारतीय शास्त्रों में मेरू स्तंभ की एक परंपरा की बात की गई है। कई बार एक भोजराज द्विवेदी ने वो कुतुब मीनार के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी उस स्टडी को किया, लेकिन मैं उसकी प्रासंगिकता पे नहीं जा रहा हूँ। लेकिन प्रतिदिन छाया नहीं बने ऐसा नहीं है, बल्कि विशेष दिन उसकी छाया धरती पर ना बने, इस अवधारणा का उल्लेख मिलता है। और विशेष रूप से वराह मिहिर के बृहत संहिता में इस प्रकार का उल्लेख है। छाया तो बनेगी, लेकिन विशिष्ट तिथि में ऐसी छाया दृष्ट नहीं होगी। यदि आप कोणार्क में देखेंगे तो कोणार्क के जो चक्र हैं वहां भी कहीं ना कहीं छाया, प्रकाश, अयन, पल, पहर, इनके सिद्धांतों का अनुपालन हुआ है। तो मंदिरों के साथ जुड़े हुए कई बार घटिकाले भी होते थे, इसका उल्लेख बाहर के लेखकों ने भी किया है। इवन जैन मंदिर के बारे में भी ऐसा संदर्भ मिलता है कि वहाँ घटिका यंत्र स्थापित थे और उससे समय का ज्ञान किया जाता था। ऐसे स्ट्रक्चर्स हमारे पास थे, ऐसी अवधारणा थी। लेकिन जो जगन्नाथ मंदिर है उनकी तो छाया बनती है। कई बातें लोक प्रचलित होती हैं, अवधारणात्मक होती हैं, वो विज्ञान के धरातल से उपयुक्त नहीं होती हैं। लेकिन मेरू स्तंभ जैसी कोई प्रतिकृति हुआ करती थी जिसमें छाया, प्रतिछाया, अनुछाया के सिद्धांत थे कि उसकी अनुछाया कैसे बनेगी, उसकी प्रतिछाया कब किधर बनेगी, किस दिशा में बनेगी। तो ये विधा यदि नहीं होती तो आप जंतर मंतर नहीं खड़ा कर सकते थे। ये राजा जयसिंह के सामने चुनौती आई। और भारत में जो यूरोपियंस के आने के बाद सबसे बड़ा जो लड़ाई थी, सबसे बड़ी जो लड़ाई थी वो नहीं थी जो बक्सर की लड़ाई हो रही थी, वो तो कोई लड़ाई नहीं थी। सबसे बड़ी लड़ाई सभ्यताई संघर्ष का था, और वह पंचांग बनाम यूरोपियन एस्ट्रोलेब्स का झगड़ा था। यूरोप की जो अपनी समझ थी और हमारी जो पंचांग विद्या थी, इसके बीच में भीषण संघर्ष खड़ा हुआ था। क्योंकि वो बनारस के घाट का एक फटे हुए धोती वाला भी व्यक्ति जो पंडित है, वह समय के को उसका आकलन करने में और कालांतर के, प्रत्यांतर के समयों के विषय में स्पष्ट वाचन करने में जो उसकी सक्षमता थी, वह पश्चिमी दुनिया के फिजिक्स, एस्ट्रोफिजिक्स के लिए कहीं न कहीं चुनौती थी। और इसको बनारस राजा के अपने विद्या निकेतन में भी स्वीकारा गया है। और उन्होंने ऐसे यंत्रों को बनाने की अभिप्रेरणा उन्होंने बनारस के स्थानीय ऐसे लोगों को दी है। अपने पुरोहिताचार्यों से उन्होंने इस पर विमर्श किया है और कुछ अंग्रेजों को गिफ्ट दिया है। ये भी बड़ा दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है कि गिफ्ट क्यों दे दिया, यही रखना था। तो यांत्रिकी का ज्ञान भारतीयों को नहीं था, ऐसा बहुत कहा जाता था। हमने यंत्र सर्वस्व जैसी पुस्तक को कैसे भुला दिया, ये एक अलग विषय हो सकता है। लेकिन ये केवल एक प्रमाण नहीं है कि हर जगह जंतर मंतर बने, सम्राट यंत्र बने, श्री यंत्र बने। आप देखेंगे कि मदन मोहन मालवीय, जिससे बनारस राजा का बहुत बड़ा डिस्कोर्स है इस मैटर पर, इस पर जगदीश नारायण सिन्हा का बहुत एक अच्छा काम है, साइंस इन द कॉलोनियल एरा के ऊपर उनका बहुत अच्छा आर्टिकल है। और उस आर्टिकल में उन्होंने इस बात को लिखा है कि विज्ञान के दृष्टि से हम कहाँ थे, हमारी विधाएं कहाँ थी, ये काशी के मर्मज्ञ पंडितों को आगे लेकर जाना होगा। और हमारे यहाँ यांत्रिक विज्ञान कैसे था, और इसलिए अभी भी वहाँ कम से कम जो विद्या मंदिर है उनका म्यूजियम, उसमें एक घड़ी तो दिखती है कि वो घड़ी स्थानीय लोगों के द्वारा बनाई गई थी, उससे अक्षांश देशांतर समय सभी का ज्ञान था। तो ये विधा बड़ी व्यापक थी, और मंदिरों से घटिकालय का, मंदिरों से ज्योतिषादि अध्ययन का बहुत गहरा संबंध था। ये दक्षिण के भी अभिलेखों में मिलेगा, और कुंभकोणम में सूर्य देवता का एक मंदिर वहाँ भी है, जैसे रामा जी का भी रामार स्वामी है, वहाँ भी सन एक टेम्पल है। और ऐसे सन टेम्पल्स में इस तरीके की शिक्षा देने की व्यवस्था थी, क्योंकि मेरा ननिहाल का परिवार ही सूर्य मंदिर से जुड़ा रहा जब तक बिहार धार्मिक न्यास बोर्ड ने नहीं लिया, उसका प्रबंधन नहीं लिया। तो वहाँ दक्षिण तक के भी लोग बुलाए जाते थे कई बार, और वो शिक्षा देने के लिए बुलाते थे। हमारे यहाँ बताए कि एक चेलवा नायकम करके थे, वो आए थे, और उनको हमारे नाना जी ने इस बात के लिए रखा वहाँ कि जो शकद्वीपी वहाँ पर जो ब्राह्मण उनसे जुड़े थे, पूजा पाठ से जुड़े हुए थे, उनको ज्योतिष की प्रभुत्व शिक्षा दी जाए। और वहाँ पर रह के उन्होंने शिक्षा उन लोगों को दी थी, जो ज्योतिष हम इधर भूल रहे थे, दक्षिण में वो परंपरा थी कहीं।
That is a wonderful lecture, Dr. Bhagan. Yeah, why is the Vimanam of the Brahadishwara temple so different from all the other temples? It's the only temple, along with Gangai Kondashwarapuram, which have Vimanams like these. Is there anything written about it?
Yes. Actually, it is all written in the inscriptions, Tamil inscriptions. It has been described as Dakshina Meru Vitanka. It is the Kailas temple, Kailas of South India. So, you have asked a very good question. In context of temple, the structure has to be mountainous and Garbhagriha has to be like a cave. Upanishad says, Brahmanasya nidhi nihito guhayam. The jewel of Brahmanic knowledge is enshrined in the temple. Guhayam nihito paramam vyom. The whole cosmos is within the guha. So, the mystery itself is not there in the Vimana. Mystery is there in the Garbhagriha itself, where you will find that they studied the acoustic principle. The Vitana is based on acoustic principle. When you will recite the mantra in the Garbhagriha, the reverberation will be quite dynamic, very dynamic, and you can feel the impact. If you go to the Kailasa temple of Ellora cave number 60, there is Ashtadal Kamal, because its linga and its force is moving upward towards the yoga. It is Yogastalinga, it is not Yonistalinga, it is Yogastalinga, and there is Ashtadal Kamal because we have Ashtavidha Yoga. So, the mystery is not there in the large Vimana, right from the period of Vijayalaya Chola to Parantak and Sundar Chola, you will find a tendency in general that they were trying to give Vimana a colossal shape, a larger shape. And Rajaraja Chola, of course, he was the most powerful and the most enlightened king, as he has been called the Pandit Chola. So, he decided for creating a great temple, and there you can find that there is depiction of Natyakarna of Bharat Muni. 84 Natyakarna have been identified. There is a long series of wall painting, and I can say that this Ajanta mural tradition, it was in practice. We had paintings at Kanchipuram Kailash temple also, but here you can find that the panorama, the arena of painting is quite wide, and the painting was also practiced again. There is superimposition of painting that belongs to Nayaka period, and then Marathas also did something. So it was not something which was experimental. You may have heard many stories about it. I can say that this Vimana has been called Sri Vimana. It is not a simple Vimana. It is Dakshina Meru Vitang, but at the same time Sri Vimana and the Supreme Vimana. No Vimana exceeded it. Its glory remained unchallenged. It is the loftiest one, the loveliest one, and the largest one. and remained unchallenged. So it is because of that very important factor. The king was, in real sense, a Vijayabhushu Raja. Think about standing military naval expedition. I was working for the Museum of Indian Navy, and they were not accepting my facts and my figures which I was presenting. No, वोसा कैसे नेवी का होगा, तुम इंस्क्रिप्शन ढूंढ कर लाओ, ये बताओ कैसा था. लेकिन इंस्क्रिप्शन भी है, उसमें लिखा हुआ है कि our vessels have crossed the sea, they have inflicted crushing defeat, and they had established their coercive control on entire Indian archipelago, Kataram Island and Malaya Deepa and Sumatra and other Deepa. So it was one of the most important periods of our history, and of course technologically we were very advanced. So we have a stupika so large, and they had developed Vajra Shanghat and Vajrabandha as cementing materials in that period. Nagaswami was of this opinion, this is not one. There are different falak which are joined together, because till this date they have a system of Ashtabandha, and this Ashtabandha is a vegetal cement, and it is applied in temple, specifically in the Garbhagriha for installing the image, and then after some years, 12 years, there is performed a ritual of reinstallation of image, and there is a grand purificatory ritual. Actually, I have participated in that. I have participated twice in the Mahakumbhabhishekam of Sri Brihadeshwara temple. Last time in 1920, when it was being celebrated, I was there for 4 or 5 days, and I was documenting all the ritual purificatory processes, that what kind of snana is being done. Dugdha snana, Dadi snana, Gandhodak snana, and Sarkara snana, and they all are actually malapkaraka. They actually remove the salt of Krishna. They clean it. Sri Manjanam is another system. So the ritual system, purificatory rituals are very significant, and you can see that this Kumbhabhishekam was being performed. You can see the symmetry, the balance, and again the astrological principle that at 6 o'clock directly the light of sun enters, and it falls on the image of Shiva doing the Pradosh Nritya. You can go to Khajuraho Kandarpa Ari temple and Vishwanath temple. Exactly at 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun rays falls, and it illuminates the linga, and only the linga. It directly falls on the mandapa, and it's Ardha Chandra sort of akriti, and from there it is reflected on the linga. If you go to cave number 26 of Ajanta on the date of Buddha Purnima, the first fall of the rays of sun comes down to the feet of Lord Buddha. So this is why I am saying ki cosmological, astrological, all principles were actually part of the Vastu Vidya. And every great thinker, whether Narad, Naganji and others, they were just not great scholars, they were great philosophers, great engineers. Thank you.
डॉक्टर आनंद वर्धन, आप मेरे अनुज हैं, लेकिन मुझे लग रहा है कि यहाँ जो बैठे रह गए हैं वो आपके इस साइंस से संबंधित लोग होंगे, तभी ये बैठे हैं, क्योंकि जब मैंने एंट्री की थी तो ये पूरा भरा हुआ था, धीरे धीरे एक एक करके जाते रहे, और मुझे लगा कि मैं इसलिए नहीं गया कि पर्सनली मैं आपसे बगैर मिले नहीं जाता, लेकिन मुझे जाने का रीज़न ऐसा लग रहा है कि ये जो साइंस है, ये मेटाफिजिकल जो साइंस है, ये हर आदमी के उसमें नहीं है, और बेसिकली यू आर ओशियन ऑफ नॉलेज। और लेकिन इसमें आपके जो टर्म आपने जो बोले हैं, जिनको यूज किया है, वो संस्कृत और इंग्लिश के दोनों ही टर्म्स अक्षर से ऊपर जा रहे थे और समझ से बाहर थे। तो क्या ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि इतना ज़्यादा आपके पास ज्ञान है, इस ज्ञान को अगर सभी के पास पहुंचाना चाहते हैं तो आप सिंप्लीफाई कर सकते हैं कि अपनी लैंग्वेज को, और इतनी इंट्रिकेट लैंग्वेज ना बोली जाए और इन टर्म्स को सिंप्लीफाई करके ताकि सभी समझ पाए। तो ऐसी मेरी इच्छा है। मैं तो प्लेन कार्ड
अपना उत्तर नहीं दे रहा हूँ।
पढ़न सर,
बड़े लेखक हुए, बैठ जाइए, मैं समझ गया। आप वकील हैं, अधिवक्ता हैं, आपका तर्क स्वीकार्य है हृदय के स्तर पे, आप ठीक कर रहे हैं। लेकिन मुझे कहानी याद आ गई, कुबेर नाथ राय हिंदी के ललित निबंध के बहुत बड़े राज साहित्यकार रहे। तो उन्होंने श्री रामायण महातीर्थम में पुस्तक लिखी, और एक उनकी और बहुत रोचक पुस्तक है, वो आप पढ़ सकते हैं, त्रेता का बृहद साम। ये दोनों भगवान राम के चरित्र पर है, उस युग पर है। त्रेता में राम के चरित्र से बड़ा कोई गायन नहीं है, इसलिए उन्होंने उनकी पुस्तक का नाम है त्रेता का बृहद साम। और उस पर आदरणीय विश्वनाथ तिवारी जी ने उनके वैष्णव बोध की बहुत प्रशंसा की है। तो उनको भी एक आदमी गए कहने के लिए कि प्रभु आपने इतना कठिन लिखा है तो इसको सरल कर दो। उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे जो पूर्ववर्ती रामचंद्र शुक्ल थे और हजारी प्रसाद द्विवेदी थे, उनके पास किसी को जाके कहने की हिम्मत थी कि इनको सरल कर लो, अरे आनंद लो और थोड़ा प्रयत्न करो, हम तो बहुत कठिन नहीं बोले। मुझे ऐसा नहीं लगता, अब संस्कृत तो संस्कृत है और हम लोग संस्कृत से दूर होते जा रहे हैं, हम भी दूर होते जा रहे हैं। ऐसा तो है नहीं कि हमारे अभी पठन पाठन कोई बहुत संस्कृत में हुआ है, हम भी उन्हीं लोगों में हैं जिनको धकेल के अंग्रेजी स्कूल में डाला गया था। तो इस बोध को हम लोगों को बढ़ाना पड़ेगा, और बिना संस्कृत के शब्दों को, और इसी प्रांगण में मैं यहाँ का विद्यार्थी हूँ, मैं वक्ता नहीं हूँ और वक्ता हो भी नहीं सकता, क्योंकि मैं जब यहाँ आता हूँ तो मुझे कुछ ऐसी आत्माओं का यहाँ प्रभाव दिखता है जो उनका विशुद्ध अंतःकरण यहाँ रहा है और उन्होंने यहाँ शास्त्रीय ज्ञान को जनसम्मत बनाया है। हालांकि लोक के ज्ञान की बड़ी प्रशंसा है। विक्रमादित्य का, चंद्रगुप्त विक्रमादित्य के एक अभिलेख में उनको कहा गया है लोकज्ञ पाटलिपुत्र का। लोकज्ञ है, लोक को जानने वाले हैं, तो लोक को तो जानना ही चाहिए, लोक भाषा को जानना चाहिए। पर मैं जब यहाँ आता था, इस लाइब्रेरी में आता था, तो मुझे वो लोग दिखते थे जिन्होंने संस्कृत को आधार बनाकर कार्य किया, और वो अभिप्रेरणा का बिंदु आचार्य शत्रुघ्न त्रिपाठी जी हमारे गुरुवत हैं। तो ये तो हमेशा ही संस्कृत बोलते रहते हैं, तो मैं सुनता रहता हूँ। तो मुझे ऐसे गुरुओं का यहाँ पाला पड़ा। डॉक्टर पंत ने मुझे क्लास से भगा दिया, बोला कि तू म्यूजियोलॉजी के लायक ही नहीं है, क्या करेगा यहाँ बैठ के, तो तू लाइब्रेरी में बैठा। और यहाँ मैंने इतनी कथाएं सुनी, इतने लोगों का कार्य देखा कि मुझे भी कभी ये लगता था कि ये तो ग्राह्य नहीं है। तो जब हम मानेंगे कि ये ग्राह्य नहीं है तो ग्रहण हो गए। जब हम सोचेंगे कि नहीं ये मेरा है और ये हृदय ग्राह्य है, हृदय संग्राह्य है और ये हमारे मानस को छूने वाला है, तो पंडित जी ये भाषा तो आपके मानस की भाषा है, आपके चित्त की भाषा है, आपकी आत्मा की भाषा है। इसके टर्म्स को आप क्यों दूर करना चाहेंगे और क्यों सिंप्लीफाई करेंगे? दिनकर जी ने नेहरू जी के विरुद्ध खड़ा होकर बोला, कहा मुझे वो हिंदी नहीं चाहिए, इसको बुरा मत मानिएगा, जो फुटपाथ पर कुंजड़ों की भाषा है। यह हिंदी जो बनेगी यह संस्कृत की उत्तराधिकारिणी होगी और नए विचारों की यह संवाहिका होगी और इसकी स्रोतस्विनी केवल और केवल और केवल संस्कृत है। हम लोगों को तो ये मानना पड़ेगा। हमारे स्टूडेंट्स भी आए हैं, उनको पता है कि क्लास में उनके लिए मुझे नाचना गाना पड़ता है, सरल भी बताना पड़ता है कि नहीं, लेकिन फिर भी हम वो संस्कृत के शब्द लिखते हैं कि ये 2-4 शब्द भी इनको याद रहेंगे तो ये इनके लिए अच्छा रहेगा।
संस्कृत का प्रैक्टिस शुरू कर दीजिए।
ये मैंने इलाहाबाद में देखा है, वहाँ एक पंडित जी थे, वो सगर बाते थे, धोती कुर्ता में, वो काला कोट टांगे रहते थे और जज के सामने खड़ा होकर संस्कृत में प्रतिवाद कर। तो ऐसे हठी लोग चाहिए इस देश को। बहुत बहुत प्रणाम, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी का। आप सभी ने सुना और विशेष रूप से मैं डॉक्टर मणि के इस आशीर्वाद तुल्य दिए गए अवसर के प्रति मैं अपना आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। बिहार से हमारे चाचा जी डॉक्टर विमल आए और उन्होंने इसका आस्वादन किया। तो बचपन में कोई रोग होता था तो इन्हीं के पास हम लोग पकड़ के ले जाए जाते थे और आज तक रोग मुक्त हैं। उनमें इनकी बहुत बहुत बड़ी कृपा है। आप सभी लोगों को आर के सिन्हा जी, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर सत्यदेव राय जी, दिलीप जी, डॉक्टर सरस भैया और डॉक्टर कुमार संजय झा, हमारे आदरणीय प्रशांत वाजपेयी जी देरी हो गई चले गए, आप सभी के प्रति बहुत बहुत आभार।
धन्यवाद सर, आपका बहुत बहुत। एक बार जोरदार तालियां हो जाए आनंद सर के व्याख्यान के लिए। हमारे